Welcome to Cluster Comparison. Today we are looking at London and Ozymandias. If you are making notes, please make a note of the following headings: speaker, situation, structure, poetic devices, language devices, and context. We're going to start with speaker and London. Blake uses one speaker. This speaker is reflective throughout the poem, but however this speaker becomes more shocking with his language as the poem progresses. For instance, he uses words like cry to begin with, then smark, moves down to manacles. The words that he uses are a lexical field of bondage. So this speaker, whilst reflective, is quite brutal in his language. With Ozymandias, the speaker created actually are three main speakers. The first speaker is reflective. The second speaker is quite informative. The third that we come across is ruthless. And of course, that's Ozymandias in his words on the plaque. That being said, the poem ends with a reflective voice. So back to the reflective speaker. We see this in the language, boundless and bare, and nothing beside remains. And the idea here is not by accident. Shelley wants the poem to end not with the audience believing the ruthless dictator, but rather with the audience recognizing the eternal longevity of the voice of the artist, the voice of the reflective person. Let's go down now to situation. For London, the situation created in this poem is of a man wandering the streets of London, commenting on who he sees and what he sees. The situation is a little similar with Ozymandias. You have a man who meets another man. And beginning with I met a man almost gives us a sense of a rather complex set of meetings that had he not had this chance meeting, he would not have heard of the demise of this statue, therefore not have heard of Ozymandias. And again, this is not by chance. Shelley is attempting to say that it is only through chance that history will allow the voice of the ruthless ruler to be heard, but yet the voice of the artist remains. If we look at structure for both poems, London uses 4 stanzas. 4 is often used to show equality, equal sides, but here each stanza actually reveals the reverse. It reveals the inequality in society. With Ozymandias, we have 1 stanza. It is the classic sonnet. And as we have learnt to appreciate, this is not someone's love for somebody else, but rather Ozymandias' love for himself and his empire. The poetic devices used across both poems. With Blake, his use of anaphora in his repetition of in one of the stanzas to begin each line shows that the troubles in his community are deeply rooted. If we look at a poetic device in Ozymandias, we have the volta in line 12, which is brutal in exposing the lie in Ozymandias' words, just the lines above that. And Shelley, again, is not acting by chance. What he's attempting to do is show that for whatever a ruler who rules by force and might says, the lie in what he says will be exposed and revealed, and quite easily. If we look at language device, we're just going to take the noun phrase marriage hearse. This oxymoron helps quite simply to reflect the, if you like, the mixed messages being sent by the society that Blake lived in. Marriage, if we go to context, go quickly down to context, and we'll come back for Ozymandias for language in a minute. But to context, marriage was an integral part of society, an institution that defined polite society as civilized. And indicating it as marriage hearse indicated the depth, if you like, of the morals of society. If we go back now to language devices for Ozymandias, we have the use of the adjective shattered just before visage. And shattered indicates, if you like, the idea that his empire, although it talked about the head of the statue, it was mirroring his empire, Ozymandias' empire. And his empire was broken beyond repair. This was nothing that could be easily fixed, easily brought together. So the use of that quite influential adjective really helps to shape the understanding of the reader of not just the statue, but the empire. And if we look at context, we recognize and realize that whilst rulers like Ozymandias did rule with great intensity for their time, immediately their time had passed, immediately on their death, they were forgotten as somebody else took over the reins and their empire was relegated. Thank you for listening and make good use of what you've heard.